Hey everyone, and welcome to Mingo's Corner on YouTube. I have had the pleasure this week to have a chat with Walter Fosdick from Albany, New York, who made this incredible poncho from my Aztec Diamonds design that was up on Etsy. After seeing it and sharing it on a few social media places, there were a lot of questions. People are like, how did he do it? What did he do? So I asked Walter to sit down with me, and we had a nice, long, weaverly chat. And we discussed the construction, the materials. He actually dyed his own yarn. We cover it all. So without any further delay, let me share with you our conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tell us a little bit about your weaving background.
I learned how to weave from a local yarn shop, the
Uh-huh.
Spinning Room, which is in Altamont, New York, about 20 minutes from where I live. And they were having just weaving classes. And I thought, I always wanted to learn how to weave. I'll take that. I
Yeah.
rented a loom, and it was in November of 2019. And I loved the class. I learned on a Cricut loom, which I did not love. I purchased my first loom used off of Facebook Marketplace, which was a 32-inch Ashford, which I still have. Rigid
Uh-huh.
Heddle loom. And then very quickly realized that looms should be on stands and not on a table. So yeah, that's how I started is I just was like, oh, I just wanted to learn how to do that. Let me take this class, which was
That's,
wonderful because it was right before COVID lockdowns. And
I was gonna say your timing could not have been better. So you still have the 32 inch, and you said you wove this on a 40 something?
48 inch,
48
which is
inch?
also an Ashford. And then I also
Right.
have two 16 inches, one which is an Ashford and one which is a Kromsky Presto.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I also just at Christmas this year bought myself a T8 from Harrisville Design, which is a eight
Okay.
shaft floor loom with a 36-inch weaving width. So I am
Wow.
getting into that as well. So
So you started then on the 32 because that's what you got off of. Well, no, you said you rented a loom. What
I
size did they
rented right
start you on?
a 10-inch, a
It's-
10-inch
Okay.
Cricut. Yeah. I
So
was
you
like,
went from
what?
10 to 32. That's quite a big jump.
Big
Yeah.
jump, yeah. And
Yeah.
I used that for years. And then I took a class to make a V cowl.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, I can use my 32 inch. And then I was like, no, after I made it, I was like, no, I need to get to 16 if I'm going to make more of these. So then, you like take it off the loom and then weave that back into the loom
Right.
and having the width of the 32 is just too much because you're only weaving maybe a 10-inch wide piece of um, cloth. So having all
Right,
that
right.
extra space. So then I got to 16 and was like, oh, I should have got a 16 to begin with because I use it. That's the size I use the most now.
So what was the inspiration for the Aztec poncho? Was it the yarn? Was it the pattern? Was it all the above? Or I want a
I
poncho. Let me hunt down what to do.
It was actually the pattern. I was
Oh,
in
okay.
one of the rigid heddle groups on Facebook, and somebody had posted towels that they had made, and
Hmm.
I thought, oh, this is a really cool pattern. I think it would look great as a poncho. Um, so that was the start of
Awesome.
it. And so that was, I think, in like October. And then I made a small sample piece to see if it was like doable. So I
Right.
did
Okay.
this out of like 8-2 cotton,
Uh-huh.
with the 12 dent reed.
Right.
And then because it was October and then it was like Christmas, it was just in my mind, like I'm going to get to this eventually. And then as far as like the colors, I'm also in the process of trying to use up my stash. I knew I didn't have enough of any one color to
Hmm.
be able to make it, in just two colors. But I had a bunch of sport and wool in the Andes is the yarn that I
Hmm.
used, undyed. And then I was like, I'll just dye my own. And when I think about, the name, the Aztec, coming from that part of the world, they used a lot of silver and turquoise in their
Right.
jewelry. So that's why I went with teal and silver to kind of pay homage to the name of the
Oh
pattern.
yeah. Loved the blue and silver because it was just so crisp and it just really made it, I don't know, just I really like that. I really like your color choices. So, and how hard was it to do all that dyeing? How much yarn did you have to dye?
So I ended up dyeing a total of 20 hanks,
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
10 of each color, knowing that I was
Right.
only going to use five of each color. But I
Okay.
also knew that um, I'm much much the kind of person who flies by the seat of their pants. Be like, yeah, that looks like enough dye. Yeah, that looks like enough acid. Let's go with it. So I knew I would never be able to replicate the color again. That
Right.
if I made an error, I wouldn't be able to match it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why I did so much. But dyeing wool is I think easy when everything's easy when you know the secret, right?
Right, right,
Um,
right.
and the acid I use is citric acid,
Uh-huh.
because citric acid gives a different tone to colors as opposed to white vinegar, which a lot of people use.
Right,
So
right.
you could use the same yarn, the same amount of dye, and using two different acids gets you a different result.
Oh yeah.
I just happen like the way citric acid does it. So basically you just soak the bare yarn in water for half an hour, wring it out. You have
Mm-hmm.
your warm water on the stove with your dye in it. And it's the Jacquard's dye that I
Okay.
use.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
tells you water to yarn to pounds for the dye intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just put it in there and you don't let the water boil. So it's maybe 115 degrees. And then you add the acid and let it set for about 20 minutes. And then you mix
Yeah.
it and dry it.
So did you do a lot of sampling for the poncho before you got started, or did you do any sampling, or did you just say,
Just that one piece I showed you.
I know
I
how
was
this
like,
works and I'm gonna make it work with this?
exactly.
I've seen a little bit, I didn't quite stalk your Facebook page. I did see the crocheted kind of rose
Uh,
triangular shawl thing. That's
Shawl.
really
Yeah.
awesome. And that's
Thanks.
crocheted, right?
That was crocheted. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was really awesome. So the question then, of course, came, have you adapted other weaving patterns for other kinds of things than what they've been designed for? Is that something you like to do?
I also do some wet felting and needle felting and a little bit of spinning,
Oh,
but
okay.
like I will weave a frame and leave the center of the weaving open. So just
Hmm.
the outside of it. And then in the center, I will needle felt an image.
Oh,
So
cool.
like I
Hmm.
did I have it hanging in my bathroom as like an underwater scene. So there's coral that's crocheted in the background is needle felted, and then there's some fish, and a turtle. So I like to combine like
Yeah,
crocheting and felting and weaving together.
that's cool.
I saw somebody on TikTok was doing the drawn thread. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I could combine that with weaving.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got some books and I've been researching, but I haven't actually done it yet. But that is on my to do for 2026 is to kind of
There's,
combine those two.
did you
Yeah.
grow up in a real creative family? Were your parents like, yeah,
No,
yeah, no, no, okay.
no, no.
Nope, it's just all you.
What my
That's awesome.
sisters in their older years did. My older sister picked up knitting, but she only knits. She doesn't purl, so she only does scarves. But my younger sister picked up crocheting, which
Uh-huh.
was interesting. And while she does crochet, she doesn't. I My thing has always been large projects. I love doing large projects.
Hmm.
She likes to do again scarves, shawls, hats, mittens,
Right.
very small, quick stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's not as prolific as I am. I think last year I did like 322 projects for the
Oh
year.
my
So
gosh.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a lot of projects across
it
all the
is.
disciplines, right?
Across all the disciplines. Yes.
How do you make time for that?
I tell people it keeps my mind off of desertion, right? Like if I'm busy making
Right.
stuff, then I'm not thinking about running away. Yeah.
It's like if you get into that zone, then you're not, all the things that are out here that are bothering you are not out there. They can't get in at some point. It's like you put up a wall
Exactly.
and your mind gets into it. I like that. So rolling us back to our poncho. So we talked a little bit. So it was one piece of fabric. You wove the slit.
Yes. I have
Okay.
it right here.
Oh, cool.
Um, so I was gonna start with measurements, right? So
Uh-huh.
I direct warped this and I measured out 96 inches, which is 8 feet from the back,
Hmm.
from you tie it onto the back
Hmm.
to, I use a warping rod. I don't use a warping peg. Um,
Okay.
because when you use the pegs, the outside yarn
Right.
is longer than the inside yarn. Um,
Right.
and then I measured 12 inches and put a mark, and that's where I was going to start weaving because I wanted
Mhm.
12 inches for fringe on the beginning and the end. And then I measured 29 inches which is the start of the neckline.
Okay.
And I use a like a washable marker. So I'm actually
Right.
marking on the yarn.
Okay.
Then I measured 43 inches because I wanted the neckline to be 14 inches. So
Okay.
that's the end of the neck slit. And then the last mark goes at 84 inches, and that leaves another 12 inches for the end of the
Just for the
fringe.
right.
And I do that while it's all spread out. I actually prefer, if I'm not doing a poncho, is to use a warping board and
Yeah.
then indirect warp. But when I do ponchos, I do that so that I know that the yarn is measured out and I'm able to measure. And because I've made a few other ponchos, um, and so that works for me. And then again, this is also, so at the end, front to back, excluding fringe, this is 6 feet, 72 inches. So it's
Right.
measured
Right.
for me. So if
Right.
you were making it for somebody and I'm 6 feet tall. So if you were making it for somebody who's, a little shorter or a little taller and maybe not as wide shoulders, you might not want to do the 48-inch width.
Right.
Um,
Right. Okay. So how much take up did you end up, how much was what were the final measurements on the length of it? Did you get a lot of take up drawn shrinkage at all or
no,
really?
it came out to be about 44 inches wide. Um,
Okay.
so I didn't lose that much. And it is, 6 feet from front to
Okay.
back.
Have you wet
The
finished it?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
And then the fringe is a little shorter. So that it is not 12 inches. Typically on a poncho, I might only do 3 or 4 inches, but I love bicolor fringe, the way it
Oh yeah,
twists.
right.
So I was like, I want long fringe on this. And then when I started
That must have
weaving,
taken a while.
I didn't remember how long it took to twist fringe, until I spent a couple of hours and I wasn't even done half of the front. I was like, oh, this is very time consuming because I was only using 4 strands per
Oh, okay.
fringe. So when I warped it, I also put 2 or 4 ends per slot. So I did,
Okay.
and then I did, uh, two of the gray, two of the teal, two of the gray.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it almost like you were going to do a houndstooth.
Right.
So I didn't do both colors in one slot.
Okay.
Because I used the sport weight and I was using the 7.5 dent. In order
Right.
to get the pattern to actually show correctly, I
Mhm.
just know from weaving, that really a 7.5 dent is a worsted weight yarn
Right.
to get what you need. So I
Hmm.
doubled the weight, in the
Yeah.
yarn. And then for the neckline, let me open this up.
I have a quick question while you're opening up. So did you hem stitch before you twisted your fringe?
I hem stitch while it's still on the loom.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I was
the
curious.
let me show that since we're talking about the hem stitch. So what I did for the hem stitch when I started weaving, I don't know if you could see, is I
Yeah.
actually did 3 picks of the gray.
Oh, okay.
And I
Hmm.
did, both down, back up, front up, and then I
Yeah.
did a 3x3 hem stitch, to
Yeah.
cover that. And then my first pick was gray and it went off of the sequence in your pattern.
Just doing, I've kind of come to think about weaving projects like this more like I'm making fabric, but then I have to
Mhm.
remember, oh yeah, and people want to do something. They want to be told what to do with it. So that's where you took it like way beyond. And what I want to see people do is say, oh, I really like this design, but I don't want to make this. I want to make fabric for something else. And
Mhm.
so that's what really caught my attention here. But go ahead and tell me some more about your neckline now. So I just kind of me off
Oh,
the
that's okay.
cuff.
And I did that for both the front and the back so that it matches.
Right.
So
Okay.
the end also was, the 3 picks.
Three
And
picks
I
of the
did
gray.
that
Right.
sequence because I wanted to make sure when I hem stitch that I was capturing all the threads so it doesn't unravel. Um,
Right. Right.
then when we get to the neck, um, let me see, hold it up. You
It's
know,
just so professional looking. It's just such a great, yeah.
I stopped using, going completely straight across.
Hmm.
I treated like this was one half
Right.
piece of fabric, and I used, 2 heddles, and then I added an additional 2 heddles, or not heddles, shuttles,
Uh-huh.
and did the other half. So for those
Right.
14 inches, I would do half, switch shuttles, do the other half. Again, just still following that sequence wherever I was. I didn't like
Right.
stop and start over so that it's a continuous pattern from bottom to top or beginning to end.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then when you get to the other end and you're switching back, what I do is I have some small stitch markers they
Hmm.
look like tiny little safety pins from
Yeah.
crocheting, is I capture the edges of the neckline and hold them together because what happens because you have now separated the fabric is it doesn't want to come back together. But by
Right.
holding them together with the safety pins, it holds it together so that when you continue with the pattern, there's
Right.
not a big gap there.
Right. Because it's kind of like when we start weaving at the beginning and we have all the places where we've tied on and you have the gaps, that's going to form again because you've artificially created
Exactly.
one. Right. So
Exactly.
that's pretty cool. And then you crocheted using one or two strands
So
around
I
the neckline.
crocheted using two strands
Hmm.
um, because I didn't want it to be narrower or thinner than the rest of
Hmm.
it. And since the
Right.
rest of it is woven with two strands, I wanted to do that. And then I just did half double crochets
Okay.
because I thought I thought I needed to. Because usually I do single crochet because I don't really like the look of when you're using multiple colors. I don't like that look of multiple colors on the side of a project. So I
Right.
almost always crochet an edge, and I usually do single crochet. But because again, it was two strands, I felt like a half double, which is just a little bigger than a
Yeah,
single
just a little
crochet,
taller. Yeah.
um, seemed to work better
Yeah.
than the. And then I did the same thing for the edge of the piece itself. So
Okay.
I also just went through again. I went and I covered this. I covered the floating salvage. So I did floating salvages on both sides. And
Right.
when you look at the fringe, you can see that the fringe was this was the floating salvage, and then this was the actual piece.
I've kind of come to think about weaving projects like this more like I'm making fabric, but then I have to
Mhm.
remember, oh yeah, and people want to do something. They want to be told what to do with it. So that's where you took it like way beyond. And what I want to see people do is say, oh, I really like this design, but I don't want to make this. I want to make fabric for something else. And
Mhm.
so that's what really caught my attention here. So it's just a stunning piece.
I mentioned that I'm going to do some towels next, and I
Uh-huh.
teach. Interestingly enough, I teach at the spinning room where I learned how to weave,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do and see if anybody's interested in learning. So hopefully, I will be getting more people to purchase your pattern
Oh, cool.
so that they can take the class. Last year, I taught 12 folks over three different classes, intro to weaving. And then
Yeah.
I did two classes on overshot. So um,
Awesome. Overshot
if,
traditional or overshot like Myra Woods?
traditional.
Traditional, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a Christmas, I don't have it near me. It was like a Christmas sampler. So we did trees and snowmen and
Oh,
reindeer
okay.
and
So you were
uh,
sort of picking as opposed to actually like shafting the overshot.
yeah, we were using pickup sticks.
Right,
I
right.
I try to get people interested in doing the shafting, but some people are like, I don't know. So I think the
It's
towels might be a hard
funny.
sell, but I think it's when people think about having to do the second heddle, but
Yeah.
but I have a secret. Like if I use a pickup stick and it goes across the front of the loom, and I
Uh-huh.
just lay the heddle down on top of it, and then I use clamps to hold it all together so it doesn't fall. And so you have all that space now to be able to do the second heddle without trying to squeeze between the two. Um,
Oh,
so one
right,
heddle is
right.
this way and one heddle is this way. So the
Okay.
threads are hanging down, and then you just go underneath and pull it through. And then you just lift it up and you're
Um,
all threaded. I use a
yeah.
crochet hook in one hand to pick up the thread I want, and then the sling reed in the other to pull it through either the slot or the hole. And my patterns are always on my iPad. So the iPad is in
Okay.
front of me and I'm just going along.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. I think rigid heddle weavers tend to come to their looms with a knitter's mindset. Like, I bought this sock yarn to make this scarf or this pair of hand knit socks or this baby blanket or whatever, and they expect to like go to their loom and make a thing as opposed to making fabric. Whereas the multi-shaft weavers I know are like, oh, I'm going to explore Strickler's number 623 or whatever. And they just start throwing things at the loom, and whatever comes out the end is fabric. And
Right?
they may or may not make anything specific out of it, or they may have a plan, or they may have somebody else who wants to sew or whatever. But I don't see that mindset yet with the rigid heddle crowd.
No, it's very like I'm making this fill in the blank. Shawl,
Right.
scarf, blanket, poncho. It's very much what rigid heddle is. But I think that the fact that the highest dent that you can really do is 15, right, on a rigid huddle might be part of that,
Ashford has a
right?
15, right? Yeah.
So you really can't get that really fine fabric. Like I have some silk that I bought
Hmm.
on cones, and I'm dying to use on my floor loom, but I needed to get, which just came last week, a 23 dent reed so that I
Right.
could actually do just and not have to double it up, and I can make that really nice fine fabric.
Right.
As opposed to, when people are like, well, I'm using worsted weight. Like, what do you use worsted weight for? You use it for hats, you use it for scarves. You
Right.
don't think of
Right.
it in terms of fabric. I think the other thing is that a lot of knitters and crocheters who come to weaving um, use, like acrylic yarn as opposed to,
They come from that background, right?
right, as to, where you could use a wool and slightly felt it and then actually have a fabric that you can cut and not fall apart. As
Right.
an acrylic will never, unless you melt it, and you cut it, it will fall apart because it's essentially, plastic. Um,
Right.
so I think
And that's
that's
not
part
being
of
a
it
wool
too.
snob. That's being practical about how the yarn can be used functionally. So
Exactly.
I have two 15 dents and I want to weave 30 inch per inch. So I'm going to be double threading the two heddles, which is a nightmare because then you have to lift both and lower both to make plain weave. But and I have a blouse project I want to do. I have a top that I like. I'm going to pick it apart. I'm going to make my own pattern from that, and then I want to weave my own linen to make a linen copy of it. It's hashtag life goals. So
Yes, yes.
and we'll get there eventually. See, this is like you're going to be seeing your pants. You probably just go straight from, I like the garment. Let's see, sleeves are this long. And you probably just throw it at it and it would work beautifully. I'm sitting here going, yeah, I'm going to make a sample. I'm going to make a swatch. I'm going to make a sample top. So any other tips you have for people who might want to alter something to, take a scarf a pattern and make it into something that might be a wearable item in some other way?
I would say just go for it. I'll
Yeah.
always do a sample if it's something you haven't done. Like I did do the sample actually I love this piece, even though
I
it's this
like the
tiny.
color combo there. Yeah.
I'm actually gonna frame this so I can hang it up because I love this so much. Do the sample so that number one, that taking the time to dye the yarn and put it on the loom, and then you're like, I hate this pattern. I hate that it's 34 picks, right? Like whatever that
Right.
is, do a sample first, a small piece, to see that if you enjoy it. Because if you're not going to enjoy it, then why are you doing it, right? So
Right.
life is about having fun. And always talk to other people. Like there's a hive
Yeah.
mind out there. The internet, it can be social media can be very devastating for folks, but it can also be this, right? It's
Right.
two
Right.
people or
Exactly.
three or four people coming together to talk about a project and getting where you want to go. And just enjoy the
Exactly.
journey as much as you're going to enjoy the destination. And don't be afraid to try anything. I made, I'll show you this blanket I made. So this was the original pattern is Crazy Shot. I can't remember the
Oh yeah,
woman's
Myra
name.
Woods. Uh-huh.
Myra Woods. It's her.
How have I not seen this? Oh my
So
gosh.
so this is her table runner pattern.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to do a blanket. So it's the same pattern, but I did it on the 40-inch, 48-inch, and I won't tell you how many months this took with a pickup
Many.
stick. Um, And then the thing I did is because I didn't want it to be just all color, I wanted some of
Uh-huh.
the tabby to show through. So I doubled the weft for the tabby. I love gray if you can't tell.
Oh yeah,
For the
okay. Uh-huh.
gray in between each of the picks. But other than that, it's her pattern. So just
Oh
don't
my
be afraid
gosh.
to take somebody's pattern and make it your own. Remember
Right.
to um, make sure you tell people whose it was. So
Yeah,
here's
right,
another
right.
poncho I did. This again is Myra Woods overshot pattern, but I only did it on the bottom.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
that's
rest of
beautiful.
it is still, the neckline at the top.
Oh, yeah.
Same pattern, same
Mm-hmm.
amount of yarn.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is I just wanted to do like a really nice overshot.
Yeah.
Apparently, I love teal as well. Uh, uh, so so that's what I would say is
I
don't be
love your
afraid.
at the edge of your necklines where you've got they look like buttons or brooches or something.
Yeah, this one's a wolf brooch, and the
Uh-huh.
other one actually is the Aztec calendar.
Oh, okay.
On
Okay. That's
because I think
awesome.
it needs a little. I like a little bling. I thought about
Well,
putting silver beads on the fringe, but then I thought if you sat on those, that would be uncomfortable. So
yeah, they have their moments, and they can be
yes,
noisy in weird places too. I
that's
bead the
true.
ends of scarves, and like you throw it over your shoulder, and you hear it go clatter, clatter, and you're like, "Uh-oh, what did I just hit?" Well, hey, Walter, I won't take up any more of your time, but I thank you so much for
Thank
doing this.
you.